Hey yo, what's goody everybody? It's your boy Devi, and welcome back to another podcast video. It's been a minute since I've actually done one of these, and I'm sorry for people that, are trying to support my channel, of how inconsistent I am with my uploads, but, 2020, it's been a, it's been a wild year. Heck, even like half of like last year as well. Um, yeah, so much has gone on, especially like in my own personal life. But I've just been trying to post as regularly as I can, with like my short uploads, like trying to like post more artwork and videos. But lately I've been in like a semi-creative slump where I just haven't felt like creating much or posting much of anything. So the uploads and stuff that you do see are like usually like months after I may have created something or finished like tweaking it and editing it and everything. But yeah, I just want to come back for like a quick little short podcast video. Probably be something that I end up doing like more often if it's like a special topic I really want to talk about and like dedicate like an entire like podcast video to, whether it's a short topic or a long one. Yeah, I think I'm just going to like start doing that instead of having to like compile up like different things I want to talk about from now on, because it can be a lot for me to edit, especially since I'm doing it on my phone. Let's manifest that I will get an iPad sometime soon. Let's manifest. Um, but yeah, so let's just dive right on in. So we're getting very, very close to the release date of Beyoncé's Renaissance album. Beyoncé is finally coming back for a new album, a solo album especially, that she hasn't worked in collaborations with her husband Jay-Z or with other companies and movies and stuff. But she's finally releasing her seventh solo album, and it's called Renaissance. And I am really, really anticipating of it, especially once I heard what the sound is probably going to end up being like. And the fact that the album is giving me very much of a 2020 type of energy. We know that everything that happened in 2020 was like a huge cultural shift in the way in which we are basically currently living. And, music has been the only way in which we were actually able to feel some form of happiness. And I think because of artists like The Weeknd and Dua Lipa, with their more 80s synth pop and disco pop sounding albums, it's really highlighted a more joyous time in which music is fun and carefree and how you can just literally do everything with it. And I think that's like the most amazing thing with how much they have really helped influence the genre of music. And I really do hope that with Beyonce's upcoming album, depending on whenever I release this, it'll be good. And I really do kind of get the feeling that it is going to be a really entertaining album that I'm going to be definitely streaming a lot of, because a few weeks ago she released her first single, Break My Soul, which had Big Freedia on it. And if you don't know who Big Freedia is, she's a New Orleans bounce hip-hop artist. Big Freedia goes by different pronouns: he, him, she, her, they, them, whatever you want to call them. And they're a queer black rapper. And I definitely think that because of the current, age that we're in, we're coming into more of an age of accepting femininity. And there's just been so much feminine energy going around in this world, especially just with this being a number 6 year. Like I was saying earlier, there's been a lot of feminine energy taking over the world. And with feminine energy being more embraced in culture, as you can see, like with TikTok trends like the hoochie daddy shorts and everything, and seeing more queer representation and just seeing more inclusivity of, women getting higher roles in leadership, and like Kamala Harris, our vice president. We've been really moving into like more of an age of inclusion of women and feminine beings being able to be more accepted. And I think that that's something that we really do need more now than ever, because things are starting to become very stale in the current ways in which our life is going, and the current ways in which, the world is. But overall, though, with Beyonce's album Renaissance, it's definitely going to be a huge revival for music, in my personal opinion. For most that don't know, music has really been like on a current life support. I've been hearing so many conversations about people asking like if R&B is dead, people asking like is pop music dead, people trying to figure out like what they want to do with rap music and how to make it more commercially successful. And we're no longer in the time in which electronic music was the current wave of the 2010s. I feel like we're moving into like a more culturally infused musical genre of going back to the basics of how music sounded back in the 70s and 80s. And you can clearly see that with, like I said, The Weeknd's Project Dawn FM and After Hours, Dua Lipa's album, and whenever she creates her next album, I feel like it's definitely going to, use that nostalgia effect to it, like how successful Future Nostalgia was for pop music. And, even with artists like a Doja Cat, for example, who is such a chameleon in different genres. She can blend within like different sounds, different, genre types. She blew up from her song Say So, which was a very 70s, 80s disco sounding song. And even with her, Planet Her album, which was a huge success. So a lot of artists are starting to get into that more nostalgic sound of the basics of music, back when music was naturally just a very, very joyous, soulful, and happy sounding genre. And with the way in which the music industry is now, everything has become so quick and easy and fast and accessible. And it's really all to blame because of no other app but TikTok. And if you've been on my channel long enough, and if you've seen and followed me on my social medias, I'm not the biggest fan of TikTok. I will use it mostly for like laughs and, comedy and stuff. But otherwise, I don't really care for TikTok like at all, because it's just one of those apps that I just feel it's a fun app for the moment. I think it's definitely a very fun app for the moment, but I also kind of feel as if it's done a lot more harm than good, in the sense of it's ruined our attention spans, and it's also just ruined the way in which entertainment is as a whole, where artists and content creators have to create short-form content in order to just be seen, in order to be heard, in order to be recognized, because a person can literally just stare at a camera and add like a little audio track to it with a screenshot over their head, and they can get like 300,000 likes and like over 4 million views. So I definitely think that when it comes to what TikTok is as an app, it's definitely ruined a lot of the entertainment factor of where music currently is, especially like, the fact that even with films and, TV shows, they're hiring Addison Rae's and Charlie D'Amelio's to be the next big reality stars, or to be the next big movie stars, and it's like, I'm not against it, but at the same time, it's like they don't really have that passion or that talent to be able to do that. They just blossomed on the app and just started dancing and stealing from black creators. They didn't actually like show a sense of passion for the art of music and other artistic forms that they're now trying to dabble themselves into. And even with how music has been treated, everything on TikTok has become a trend, to where music and TikTok has both co-aligned, meshed, fused, have a symbiotic relationship now, almost parasitic in a way, where I would say, and I don't really have like the full-on vocabulary to be able to explain it, but it's kind of gotten to a point where artists have to literally create up to 7 to 8 TikToks a day just to get their music to be promoted and to, have their labels back them. You have artists like Adele who have complained about their labels telling them that they have to make TikTok music. You have just so many different artists that are trying to now market towards the younger generation, when it's like TikTok is really not even garnered to really last, like going into like the next 5 or so years. I personally don't see it lasting that long, and I think that with this Renaissance album and with, the latest trend of the music, from Drake's type of album, his album, honestly, Nevermind, wasn't that bad, but I think it was way too heavily monotone. His singing voice is very monotone, and for him to try and sing on with a monotone voice on a very upbeat club anthem, popper pill popping type of tracks and everything, it just didn't sound good. It just didn't. There were a few, small key takeaways from the album, but overall, it wasn't the best album. And a lot of people have started to realize that. And I'm kind of glad that he went ahead and released it now. That way we don't have to end up being anticipated for it and it ends up being trash. While Beyonce is getting ready to anticipate us with her upcoming more dance and what some people have claimed to be country-infused album, Renaissance. And there's been a lot of flack recently from a lot of, queer and house music and dance music people, and even the ever so controversial Azalea Banks, wanting to call out Beyonce for quote-unquote using and exploiting dance and house music to better gain. And as someone that is a huge fan of house music, I really don't see it as that. I just more so see it as she's just trying to use her own little spin on house music, especially because she's given her flowers to people like Robin S. and, the original creators of house music. I can't think of their name off the top of my head, but, I'm definitely giving them their flowers because they've definitely created one of my personal favorite genres, which the creator used to DJ at a warehouse, which was like a famous queer Black and Latinx club called the Warehouse, and it eventually transformed into what is now known as house music. So it has like a lot of electronic feels to it, people consider it to be type of music, and I just consider it to just be a happy feel good type of song or type of genre. And when you really listen to it, and depending on the type of artist that you listen to, music has an effect on it to where it can literally possess you and take you over, to where you feel the emotions. You can feel the emotions, and you can dance and cry and just feel just so in tuned and in sync with the music. And that's a beautiful thing, and you can rarely get that nowadays with like certain music artists. Like nowadays, music artists are creating their next big TikTok hits, to where people can create a 1-2 quick step arm movement TikTok dance, and it's the latest trend for like the next week and a half. Things don't have enough substance to it anymore, and songs have become shorter, and albums have become shorter or longer, but just with shorter songs, So I just personally think that hopefully with this upcoming album from Beyonce, and because she is technically considered to be the queen of music, most people do call her that because she has dabbled and touched every single genre of music, and she is in the same place of the greats, like a Michael Jackson, like a Prince, like a lot of the greats of music. Beyonce is in that position. And yeah, and I personally think that because of her power and where she is in the music industry, she was able to change the release date of when music drops on a Tuesday. She changed that when she released one of her albums, surprisingly, on a Friday. And now she recently is going to be changing it between like Tuesdays and Fridays. So I definitely think that when it comes to Beyonce, she's definitely going to be able to like usher in like a new appreciation for house music, hopefully. And I've even seen artists like Tinashe start to get more attention. Like, she's starting to get more recognition for house music. And, even with as chaotic as Azalea Banks is, she started to become the topic of conversation. And you even have one of my newer favorite artists as of last year, Doechii, who has a track called Persuasive, which she performed at the BET Awards. And it has a lot of house inspiration into it as well, especially like, ballroom culture and everything. And just the colorfulness of, queer black people. So, especially because of how house music is usually the type of genre of music where it uplifts you during a time of societal unrest and during a time of, when people are basically depressed. I think the last few times that we've had like big immersions of electronic music has been during times of a recession or an economical and of awful time economically is what I'll say. And we can see that especially like with how jazz and the Harlem Renaissance was a thing. We see that even with like European Renaissance, like with the famous painters that painted the Mona Lisa, the birth of Venus, the creation of Adam. You have people like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo. You have artists like them. And even going back to the Harlem Renaissance, you have many artists like Langston Hughes, who was a very well-known poet and writer, Gladys Bentley, who was a musician, Billie Holiday, who was a singer, Duke Ellington. You have so many known people within the Harlem Renaissance that really did give birth to black musical and artistic cultures, during a time in which it was becoming more socially accepted, And I think that with Beyonce doing this, especially at a time in which music and art in itself is being so disrespected based upon social media and just how easily manipulated art and music has become, I feel like, even though Beyonce is kind of like, a supreme of the supremes, part of like many different, things within the music industry, good and bad, I definitely think that this album and the symbolism of the album is definitely going to try and help usher us into a much more happier sound with music. And what other way than to help us bring in a new genre or re-emerging a new genre of music than bringing it in with like a Beyonce? Like, what other way? Like, what better way? So, yeah. I'm definitely very anticipated for the album. I don't really want to know or like make any guess of who I think could be featured on the album. I do hope that Nicki Minaj might be featured on the album. That would be one of my biggest hopes for it. Maybe even a Chloe and Halle song on there, they're her proteges. Maybe a Destiny's Child reunion or Destiny's Child track with like Kelly Rowland or Michelle, being on a song. Or maybe they could pop up for like one of the tours that Beyonce does, especially when promoting this album. And then even to think about the country tracks as well, because like black music has really influenced so many different genres and has created so many different genres that we have now. It would be interesting to see, what Beyonce's rendition of a country track could be like, especially if she, does what she did like on Lemonade, like with Daddy's Lessons. It would be interesting just to see and hear what this album is going to look like. I can't wait to see the visuals, to be honest. So, yeah. That's just my takeaway for the music and, the anticipation for this upcoming album of Beyonce. Because I definitely know she's going to deliver 100%. She is the queen of music for a reason. Well, I guess that's all I really wanted to talk about today. I didn't really have like any other topics I really wanted to like touch on briefly, aside from like the way in which the world is like going to shit. But that's like a more heavier topic that, I didn't really want to like touch on. And like Beyonce, I want to like create stuff that's fun and like, is happy, and like, we can speculate on like what the album is going to be like before she releases it. And hopefully this Friday she'll actually have a music video or something for Break My Soul, because I definitely need a music video for that. Like most definitely need a music video for that, especially like, the timing of which I'm recording this podcast now. I recorded that second part like earlier up in the month of July, because I didn't think I was actually going to be like having to like edit it or anything like that, or having to like, add certain parts to it. But yeah, I just want to say thank you all for listening to this episode of the Chaos Space Podcast, a very inconsistent one, but one I do enjoy making on my free time, or whenever I, just want to have like a talking point, or just want to talk about something. So be sure to turn on my post notifications, that way you guys can stay updated whenever I post a new video. Follow me on all my social medias. I'll link them all down in the description. And yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing week, an amazing day, an amazing year, whenever I end up, reaching you. Always remember to release negativity and unleash creativity. This is Devi signing out. Bye, guys.